Hello, and here in this video I'm going to finish with the Hume material. This is the last slide presentation on Hume, and we finally made it to the problem of induction. The problem of induction, what Hume means by that is there's a problem with inductive reasoning. We use it all the time, but how can we rely upon it? How is it justified? That's the problem he's having. Now let's go to the first slide. And here we're going to start with what's called the experience argument. This is the argument that's used to try to justify our use of inductive reasoning. And it starts off with the principle of induction, right? The idea that the laws of nature stay the same over time. And the real question here is, why do we believe this? If we can justify this belief, then we can justify our use of inductive reasoning. So why do we believe that the laws of nature stay the same over time? And a common argument is that because they did in the past. In the past, the laws of nature stayed the same. Therefore, in the future, the laws of nature will stay the same. And that seems very plausible. It seems almost obvious. How could it be otherwise? Let's look at this argument right here. Here it is laid out, right? In the past, the laws of nature stay the same. Conclusion, in the future, the laws of nature will stay the same. What kind of an argument is it? It's an inductive argument. It goes from past experience to a prediction about the future. And that's where the real problem comes in. If it's an inductive argument, it's not complete. What does it need? It needs the principle of induction. And here we have the complete version of the argument right here, right? Premise, in the past, the laws of nature stay the same. The laws of nature always stay the same. That's the principle of induction. Conclusion, in the future, laws of nature will stay the same. But remember, what are we trying to do? We're trying to justify our belief in the principle of induction with an argument. But it turns out the argument we're using requires what? The principle of induction itself. So now we're trying to justify the principle of induction with reference to the principles of induction. It's almost like we're saying the laws of nature always stay the same because the laws of nature always stay the same. That's true in a sense, but it's not informative. It doesn't prove anything. It's what is called a tautology. It's just a repetition of words. It's like if someone said, "Why is blue blue?" And you could say, "Blue is blue because blue is blue." That doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't justify anything. And that's what we have right here. How do we know the laws of nature always stay the same? Because they did in the past. Therefore, they will in the future. But how do you know that's a good argument? Because you believe the laws of nature always stay the same. So you're using an inductive argument to justify inductive reasoning. That will never work. That's what's called either begging the question, assuming the conclusion, or it's some kind of circular argument, or it's a tautology. And so one way or another, it's some sort of logical fallacy. You cannot justify something with itself. You cannot justify induction with inductive reasoning. And here we can see this idea of assuming the conclusion, right? If I assume my car will start tomorrow, then I can conclude my car will start tomorrow, but I haven't proven anything. I haven't given reasons for believing anything. What reasons do we have to believe that the laws of nature always stay the same? And you're going to be tempted to say, well, they have in the past. Yes, but now we know that's just another inductive argument. And to make that inductive argument work, we have to believe what? That the laws of nature stay the same. So now you're saying, well, I should believe the laws of nature will stay the same in the future because they have in the past. And I know that's a good argument because the laws of nature always stay the same. We're just assuming the conclusion. Oops, sorry. And here's the real problem, right? If we want to make any kind of arguments about the world, they have to be inductive arguments. They're inductive arguments, they have to use the principle of induction. And what reason do we have to believe that the laws of nature always stay the same? We don't seem to have any. And yet, what do we believe? We believe that the laws of nature always stay the same. That's the problem. What's our rational justification for believing that the laws of nature always stay the same? And Hume's saying it doesn't look like we can find one. So he doesn't have a rational solution to this problem. He has more like a skeptical solution to this problem. And you can think of it this way. Think about learning. To learn, from the past, you have to believe what? That the future will be similar to the past. So to learn, you already have to believe what about the laws of nature? That they stay the same. You don't learn that the laws of nature stay the same. You already believe it. You're kind of born that way. So is pretty much every other organism. Think about an organism that doesn't believe that the laws of nature stay the same. What will happen to that organism? It'll die very quickly. And so you're kind of built, so to speak. Nature's kind of made you such that you kind of, not consciously, but you just believe the laws of nature stay the same. And when you take experiences, you can say, well, these past experiences, right, in similar situations will be repeated in the future because the laws of nature always stay the same. So you don't have an argument for it. It's not something you have to learn. You just come into the world that way. Again, this idea, it's part of your nature, right, to believe that the laws of nature stay the same. You don't have to figure it out. It's not some rational argument you need to understand to believe it, right? It's also not something you can suspend judgment about. Try to suspend judgment about the laws of nature staying the same. It won't work. It's impossible, right? If you truly suspended judgment about that, you'd go insane because you'd be worried about all these things happening that you don't believe are going to happen right now. You don't believe you're going to float out of your chair because gravity has changed, because you think gravity will always stay the same. So you don't have a rational argument for this belief, but you also can't suspend judgment about it. So you can't really follow Descartes, who says, look, I need proof for everything I believe. That's not going to happen. But you shouldn't follow the skeptics either, who tell you you should suspend judgment, right, when you don't have rational arguments. Hume thinks we're in the middle. This is the human condition. We're in the middle between certainty and skepticism. We're just like the other animals in a sense. They all believe the laws of nature will stay the same, and so do we. And we're just part of nature. And we go through our life believing this, and we don't really need to justify it with arguments because we can't, but we also can't suspend judgment about it. It's another limitation on human knowledge. We can't really find a rational justification for the laws of nature staying the same, and yet we believe it out of a certain kind of psychological necessity. We can't stop believing it. It's just the way we are. So there we have it. The problem of induction is that we can't really justify our use of inductive reasoning because we can't justify the principle of induction. We can't justify our belief that the laws of nature stay the same. And Hume's solution is don't worry about it. You can't find a good argument for it because it's not possible, and you can't suspend judgment about it. So you're just part of nature. Just go ahead and believe it, and don't worry about it. That's his solution.